Yep.
Okay, I will call the Londonderry Planning Board meeting to order for January 10th, 2024. I just want to point out for everyone who is here that this room has two exits. They're on the right-hand side of the audience, the front of the room, and the back of the room. If we have to evacuate for any reason, we ask you to proceed through the exit closest to you, go outside, move away from the building, and don't come back in. Our fire officials have instructed us to do so. You're in charge, Brian. I'd like to ask everyone to please rise. We'll pledge allegiance to the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's see, Al is not going to be here tonight, and I'll appoint Tony to vote for Al. And that gives us 7 voting members. So we are with a quorum, and we will proceed. So, first part of our meeting is administrative board work, where we got our business done. We have 3 continued plans, one of them which is has requested further continuance. So we will start with the board work, approval of minutes. We have minutes that is for January 3rd, 2024.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of January 3rd, 2024.
Okay, motion by Jake. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jeff. Any discussion on the minutes of January 3rd? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Abstentions? And the chair votes affirmative. Minutes carry, and those are adopted as the official minutes. We don't have any regional impact determinations, and we'll go to discussions with town staff.
I've got nothing this evening.
You're all set, Kelly? You're all set, okay. We're moving right along. The continued plan, and I'll read it into the record to be official here. Public hearing on an application for a formal review of a site plan to construct a 58,432 square foot warehouse and storage facility and associated site improvements, 88A Harvey Road, Plainview Drive, tax map 14, lot 17, zone industrial 2. Patriot Holdings LLC is the applicant, and VAB Properties LLC is the owner. This has been continued from our December 13th, 2023 meeting, and they are requesting a continuance to February 14th, 2024.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion for continuance. Do I have a second?
Second that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, second by Lynn. Any discussion on the continuance? Seeing none, all those in favor of the continuance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions, and chair votes affirmative. The motion for continuing is passed. And I just want to make an announcement for the,
The second
oh, yeah,
C and D, I want to recuse myself.
okay.
from the
I
board
just
for-
have to give my official public announcement here that the public hearing on an application for formal review of a site plan to construct a 58,432 square foot warehouse and storage facility and associated site improvements, 88A Harvey Road, Plainview Drive, tax map 14, lot 17, zone industrial 2. Patriot Holdings LLC is the applicant, and VAB Properties LLC is the owner, and that this plan is continued to the 14th of February, 2024, at 7 p.m. right here. And this is your only official public announcement. Just want to show for the record that Johnny Varani has stepped down from this plan, and this plan coming up. And that is a public hearing on an application for a formal review of a site plan and conditional use permit for 130 townhouses and associated site improvements at 71 Perkins Road, tax map 15, lot 51, zoned MUC, 171 Rockingham Road, tax map 15, lot 59, zoned MUC, 179 Rockingham Road, tax map 15, lot 60, zoned MUC, 175 Rockingham Road, tax map 15, lot 60-2, zoned MUC, and 191 Rockingham Road, tax map 15, lot 64, zoned MUC. Gene Gagnon is the owner, and this plan has been continued from December 13th of 2023. And this has been accepted as complete. I think we have also passed on the conditional use permit, so we don't need to bother with that. And we are here to, I guess, update from where we had left off with things that we had requested. So, you want to start, Jason? Just identify yourself for our records, please.
Jason Lopez, Keach Nordstrom Associates, here tonight representing Gene Gagnon, and he is here with me. So, last meeting, we had a short discussion on traffic, so additional,
I thought it was a very thorough and educational one.
So after our conversation, there was some additional questions on the plan. The board asked, I believe it was Lynn, asked for a summary on traffic. We did make, I'll say, a partial submittal to the town. We did have the staff report last time. We've gone through and addressed all that, but we didn't get revised architecturals until Monday. So we did not make one full, complete submittal. What we did submit just this week was that traffic summary landscape plan was revised, and then the architectural renderings were updated. So really, it's just those three points. And then if the board has other comments, questions, I can go through those. So seeing as the landscape plan is up, I will start there. The request was to take a look at additional evergreen plantings between Vista East and Vista Ridge Drive. We did add in an additional 26 balsam fir, 10 blue spruce, and 33 eastern white pine for an additional 69 evergreen plantings. That will put 100 evergreen plantings between Vista East and Vista Ridge Drive. We did, one of the, this is an overview, we did substitute one of the sheets that didn't have any landscaping on it. We substituted that. We now have an overview of the entire site. And then the other sheets are blown up. If you want to, if you can scroll through that, it'll give a little more larger scale going through. Jake, I think you were the one that requested this. Do you have any additional questions or requests?
I think that I think this looks much better. You know, it's much more dressed up between the roadway and the backs of the units. Really, the only request I would have is something but a white pine, just because they lose all their branches on the way up. If you could do like a Serbian spruce, Norway spruce, anything like that, they're gonna hold their branches a little better. But all in all, I think the landscape plan is a significant improvement from what was before us before, or previously. Thank you.
So we can take a look at that substitution.
Yeah, please.
Kelly, would you be able to go to the architecturals? So the architectural discussion was that term belly band trim. So we did add that in around the perimeter of the building. We also added in stairs from the decks and additional dormers on the rear of the building. And then the next slide would be the, so that lower profile, lower right corner, that's actually the face of the building that you would see from Vista Ridge Drive. So address that. Any further comments or concerns or anything on that? Is that,
Yeah, and
did we get the?
It's so much better, and thank you for listening, and thank you for taking the time to to do that. It's gonna be a much nicer look for people driving by it, for sure. So thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree. You guys did a great job with that. Thank you.
And then the last item was just a summary of the improvements that need to be done for different intersections in that area, cutting of vegetation, replacement of signs, improvement of signs. So we went through and we've got a full outline, and then at the end of that is actually some graphics that detail what needs to be done in each area, each intersection. So,
So I have a couple of comments on that, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
yes,
So, looking down at the off-site intersection of Bartley Hill and Perkins Road, the issue I see, I live on Bartley Hill Road, so I drive through that intersection every day, multiple times every day. It's looking north. If you're coming down Bartley Hill Road toward Perkins, looking north, there's trees that are blocking the sightline distances. And I don't know if they're in the town right away or not, but something needs to be done to address that because that is a bad situation there, you know. People coming down Perkins Road just don't see the intersection until they're right on the intersection.
so we do have noted, clearing in the right of way, working on private property that would probably at the time of construction, I don't know, John, if we'd be able to work with you and engage that landowner.
I think we have additional, and unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to take a look at that subdivision, but I think we have a little more right-of-way on that northwesterly corner. So again, at that time, we're gonna pull that subdivision plan. If it's in the town's right-of-way,
Cut
we're
it.
gonna work with you to remove it.
And if I was that homeowner on the corner, and if they cut down those trees, I would be very disappointed. And I would like to see if we can work with that landowner to put some trees on their property outside of the right-of-way, if their trees get cut down that are inside the right-of-way. I'd like to have that offer made to them.
Lynn, do you mean the northwest corner?
The northwest
And the
corner.
north, and the southwest corner also?
Southwest corner, I don't have an issue with, it's
Okay.
only the northwest corner.
It's when you're coming in, you can see the southwest, no problem. It's just that northwest side is very difficult. You gotta kind of halfway into the intersection.
Yep, and, and I don't know if anybody's talked to the landowner there or not, but if it was me and they came in and cut down those trees, I would be upset about it. So I would like to see what we can do to work with them to mitigate that. And if they're fine with it, I'm fine with it, but if they would like to see something done there, I would like to see us do something there.
The only thing I get a little nervous about looking out for, my client's best interest is when we get into plantings on a butter's property
Yep.
or adjacent properties, then comes the issue of maintaining and making sure they grow and establish, and then the responsibility of who's replacing it if it dies,
I
just like
understand
to-
all that, yeah.
Yeah, once placed, then they're responsible. But I think at that time, John, if we can work with that homeowner.
All I ask is that we work with them.
At least
and,
ask the question.
And make it as minimally intrusive as possible on your behalf and on their behalf as well. But like I say, if that was me and I've lived with those trees there, as long as that house has been there, I'd be very disappointed if they were cut down.
Okay.
I'd have to agree with Lynn. I think it's a very fair and reasonable solution to that intersection there. I also do agree with Jason that, it would be on the if the homeowner even wants it, it would be on the responsibility of them to maintain them after the applicant had planted them. But I think that's beyond fair and reasonable for everybody.
And there's some other issues up there that I don't think we can deal with in the scope of this subdivision plan, it's a tough area with downhill slopes going into intersections and things like that, and I just can't see us doing anything about that at this point in time, so I'm good with that. I had one other question. If you could go to the picture, Kelly, showing the Vista Ridge Circle with Crestview coming into it.
In this
Just,
packet or the other?
It's in this packet. It's, I think, the last picture in the packet. Right there, right there. So I was up there today, and just one comment today is, there's a berm that's like right here.
Yep.
And if that came down, I think your problem goes away.
That needs to come
Yeah, it
down.
would
That's
have to.
part of, in order to get the site distance. Not only are we taking that grade down, we gotta clear a lot of the trees right over, almost to that culvert that it passes under.
Okay, as long as the berm is coming down, I think
Yeah.
the problem, it pretty much goes away. So if you're gonna plan on doing that, I'm good with that then as well.
That's already in the grading.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else to add?
Nothing
And,
else
we're working
unless
with
the
John.
board has additional questions.
Okay, I'll go to staff, then we'll go to the board for anything in addition,
Yeah,
and then the public, yeah. So John?
As Jason indicated, again, we have not, I believe the revised plans were just submitted this afternoon, so,
I have not submitted any revised plans, just these attachments.
and nothing verbal on some of the responses to the
Nothing
comments.
yet, no.
Got it. So again, we want to put that caveat out there. Couple of things, though, when Jason was talking about the landscaping that they added to the inside of Vista Ridge, you just need to be careful that we're not putting that in any slope easements or anything. So again, you need to look at that. So if he says there's 100 and it only ends up being 85 or whatever,
They're,
we'll have to
I've
take a
got
look
them
at it.
I
outside.
was gonna say, just keep them outside of the easement,
Yeah.
problem solved.
They're outside of the
If
easement.
there's enough real estate out there, so
Yep.
just raising the flag. Couple
Yeah,
of
'cause I think if there's anything that happens, I think we could make it a condition of the plan, if we're gonna conditionally approve it.
You're gonna make what?
So, you know, because you said you hadn't reviewed the full plans and everything.
Correct.
That could be made, you know, a condition of the plan if we, do give it conditional approval. So, I mean, they would have to satisfy you before the plan could be signed.
Correct, yeah. The other item that I had jotted down from last month, Jason, how are you making out with Manchester Water on those improvements? Is there any additional work as far as exterior of that pump station, or?
No,
Any idea?
it's replacement of, 2 pumps and the fire suppression pump. So all 3 of those pumps need to be replaced.
It's all
And then
internal.
there's some control panels that go with that.
It's all internal of the building?
All internal, yes, yeah.
Just so that, if
Uh,
there's-
When we get down to the Vista West entrance, there's a dividing valve in the road, which closes off the pressure side to the gravity flow side. That needs to be relocated just to the Rockingham Road side of Vista West Drive, so we can pressurize that line heading up.
yeah, okay.
I've already worked that out, details with Guy.
So it's all gonna be part of the plan set?
Yes, it was
Is-
incorporated in the last plan set,
Yeah, as
yes,
far as the improvements to the pump station?
yes.
Yeah. Then the last thing that I had from last week, last month was, again, the sprinklers and the road width would have been on Vista West.
Yes.
Now Brian is here. I think it's an opportunity to kind of expand. My recollection was, again, that there was some discussion, Brian, about what's being proposed on Vista West. So it would be going up Vista, the one on the right. There was some discussion about the width of the road, and I believe that you guys had resolved it, right, by making the road wider?
No. The road is gonna be maintained at 24 feet. If we maintain the road at 24 feet, then we needed to provide sprinklers in all the units, all the buildings up at the top. The last question that will need to be determined before the installation of hydrants is what the design of the system is, whether one or the other will determine whether or not there's a connection on the building. If the systems that are actually designed have a connection on the building, then we just have to verify that our hydrant locations that were shown on the plan within 75 feet, 100 feet of that connection. That was the only thing, so we notate, yeah, we're putting a note on the plan.
Section of the road with NRPA 1 allows for reduction if there's sprinkled buildings.
Brian,
Yeah, I think, you can sit here. We just need the folks at home to hear this.
Yeah, as we had discussed, NFPA 1 allows for a reduction in road width if the buildings are sprinkled. So that's where we allowed for that allowance, because obviously, if there's a sprinkled building, most of the time, 80% of the time, the fire will be contained with 1 or 2 sprinkler heads long before we ever arrive. So we shouldn't be getting to a fully involved building fire. We wouldn't need the same amount of apparatus as we would, an unsprinkled building. So NFPA does give that allowance, so that's where I gave them the opportunity. It's either the 28-foot wide roadway, or if they want to make it narrower, NFPA does give the allowance with sprinklers.
So you're gonna sprinkle,
Sprinkle the west, yes.
Yeah.
this is the west.
And east does not need it.
We have 2
Vista
points of
East doesn't
access.
need it.
No, because the problem with Vista West is there's only one way in, one way out.
Yeah.
So if we have a building fire at the first building, say, we set up our aerial is 18 feet wide set up. So you have a 24-foot wide road, you put an 18-foot wide piece of apparatus in it. If something else happens farther down, we can't get down there. So that's where, we're trying to keep small fires small or extinguished before we even get there. Most likely, we wouldn't need to set up the aerial. On Vista East, you have 2 ways in and out. So if we're blocking one entrance, there's still another way for us to get in and out with apparatus.
Question, John.
Yep.
Is, are the curbs granite or are they like a Cape Cod berm?
They're granite,
Granite? Would it,
there's sidewalk there.
there's a sidewalk there, okay. Thank you.
That's all I had, Mr. Chairman. Again, just for
Okay,
my notes.
yep. Kelly,
I'm all set, Mr. Chair.
you are all set. Okay, I'll go through the board. Ann,
No questions.
Jeff,
I have no questions.
Lynn,
No, I'm good.
okay.
Jake?
Just one follow-up question on what John was saying on the landscape plan. Your concern was if something is inside of the slope easement?
Yep.
If there is an item inside of the slope easement, does the board have the ability to allow that?
Well, it goes back to what Lynn is saying, don't put things in the site, in the slope easement or the site distance easement, because then again, they have the tendency to be removed if we have to go out there and,
The slope easement, okay,
that's why I need to look at it.
okay.
I'm just making you aware of it.
Yeah, you know, even if it is in the slope easement, I'd be fine with it getting planted. And if it's gonna get removed, it's gonna get removed down the road. I'm good.
Okay, Tony,
I'm all set, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Jason,
I like that you put the stairs on the back porches. Other than that, it looks good. Thank you.
Roger.
Everything looks good to me.
So far, so good. Are there any abutters, anyone from the public have any questions, comments, or concerns in regards to this site plan? Yes, sir, could you come to a microphone, either here or there, and I need your name and address, please.
My name is Donald Turner. I live at 16 Crestview Circle. And I would like to take this opportunity to respond to a comment that was directed towards me in the December 13th meeting by Mr. Lopez, that I would have addressed at the time, but the public comments had closed, and I like to follow decorum. Now, I am paraphrasing here. When asked by a board member if there would be a play area for the children in the development, that it would be nice if the children had some place to play, the answer was no, none. They can give them a box of Cheez-Its and they can go feed the beavers and look for the bobcat. If this is how you truly feel about the environment and the families that will live in this development, perhaps you are in the wrong line of work. I would say profession, but there was nothing professional
Could you stop for a
about your
moment, please, sir? I think your comments are directed directly, and I think you need to take it offline, not in this meeting.
All right, well,
Because what you're talking about doesn't deal with the site plan, it deals with the engineer.
so he can
So
say
that's,
what he
that,
wants. I can't say what I want.
I mean, you can talk to him all you want out in the hallway, but not here. That's out of order.
All right, can I speak to
I
that?
don't want to continue.
No,
continue
okay.
with it. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, it's over. So that's between you two, outside of this public hearing. Okay, anyone else? I don't see any more input for the board. I'll bring it back for board resolution. I think we could probably go to a conditional use permit. I think you have all the conditions all set in there, Kelly.
The CUP we approved last meeting, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to grant conditional approval of the site plan for 130 townhouses and associated site improvements at 71 Perkins Road, map 15, lot 51, zoned MUC, 171 Rockingham Road, map 15, lot 59, zoned MUC, 179 Rockingham Road, map 15, lot 60, zoned MUC, 175 Rockingham Road, map 15, lot 60-2, zoned MUC, and 191 Rockingham Road, map 15, lot 64, zoned MUC, Gene Gagnon, owner and applicant, in accordance with plans prepared by Keach Nordstrom Associates Incorporated, dated August 12, 2022, last revised August 29, 2023, with the precedent conditions to be fulfilled within 2 years and prior to plan signature, and in general and subsequent conditions of approval to be fulfilled as noted in the staff recommendation memorandum dated December 13, 2023.
Okay, I have a motion by Jake. for
I'll
conditional
second that,
approval.
Mr. Chair.
Second by Lynn.
Can I
Ellie.
clarify, are we adding your condition with
So,
respect to landscaping?
I would
and
like to
white pine?
add, the condition to change white pine to, either a Serbian or a Serbian spruce or a Norway.
Okay.
And I would like to add, I don't know how we would word it, but Lynn's concern, with,
Work with the property owner.
Work with the
of
property
Bartley
owner,
Hill
exactly.
Regarding any
Correct.
potential replacement of
correct,
vegetation.
correct, that would be great.
Okay, you're all set, Kelly? Okay. Any discussion from the board? See any? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstentions?
Did you second that?
Yeah, Lynn seconded it. And chair votes affirmative, and motion carries. And just for the record, the record show that Gianni Verani has stepped down, so this is 6-0-0 vote.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You got some work to do. Even a month or so, we're ready for a further traffic education. We forget stuff. That's right, you're supposed to give us a quiz, I think, you know? Okay, next plan. We have a public hearing on an application for formal review of a site plan and conditional use permit to construct a 12,000 square foot medical building and a 3,000 square foot bank and associated site improvements. Tax map 15, lot 60-2, zone MUC. Gene Gagnon is the owner. Bill Reina is the applicant, and this is continued from December 13th, 2023. So this has been accepted as complete, and we've had discussion on it, and we had maybe a number of items of concern for the board that we decided to continue. So welcome, gentlemen. I'll just ask you for your names, businesses, and so forth for the record, please.
All right, for the record, Sam Foisey with Meridian Land Services. Jason Plord with VHB, Traffic Engineering Consultant. You thought you were rid of me last time, right? I'm back.
Traffic is always around.
Cliff Note Persians.
Bill Griner, the applicant and developer.
Okay, welcome.
All right, as you stated, we were here before you last month in December, and this is the plan before you with the specific comments that were raised. So essentially, the main comment of focus related to the overall subdivision was the traffic generation, and then our project was attached to that, and that's why we have Jason back before you to address the traffic associated with this specific site, these specific uses, instead of the assumed uses with the overall subdivision. Another concern was the construction of the bank, part of Phase 2, and how that would take place. The building colorings, given the rendering, didn't fully match what the real world would be, and that's why we have before you some samples, which I can pass these out to the board right now, actually. This can kind of go with it, so. I'll bring this up. So one point of clarification on that is the I'll call it yellow on the rendering, is this color here, and then that below brown, that below brown, would be this, this color here,
So the brown is gray?
so the background is gray, and the yellow is,
Yellow.
beige.
It's
And the brick is this.
like a cream color.
Are those samples?
Yes, we have samples.
I
I
like it.
just want to thank you,
Yeah.
that it varies from what we're seeing here in that color on our screen.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Approved.
The other concerns were site circulation and more specifically, fire access and then ambulance use of the drop-off area. So that brings us to the phasing. To be upfront, we do think that these two projects are gonna be built in unison together. We do not have a tenant for the bank right now, and that is why it's phased, in case that tenant isn't acquired in time to actually build the building. There's the opportunity to divide this project up into two phases. So phase one and phase two being the bank. The proposed phase one has all the utilities stubbed beyond the pavement area. It has the stormwater containment berm and swale going to the stormwater basin. So that way, when phase one is complete, the site will be stabilized and the utilities will be stubbed to the site, which means there will be no disturbance of the actual pavement area. While I recognize that that area is small and confined, the majority of the site work is related to the actual construction of the building. So the larger equipment that is required is only for the footings there and then some minor trenching for the utility connections. We believe that there's plenty of area there to actually construct the building. And yes, there will be some inconveniences to the uses of the medical building at that time, but there is appropriate room over there to construct that 3,000 square foot building. That brings us to the colors. This was provided by the architect here, listing out what the shingles will be, what the clapboard will be, what the bricks will be, and then all of the other architectural features going through. But I think the samples do give you the best idea of what it is. And additionally, we've been before the Heritage Commission twice related to the signage and the architecture and the landscaping, and the CONSCOM regarding the landscaping. Which I know that was one of the other items. This is a code compliant plan with landscaping. We feel that it's the appropriate landscaping plan, given the site, still having visibility of the site, but breaking up the building appropriately. And these are the renderings that you've all seen before. Here's the signage with the landscaping plan, and this is where I say it does break up the building, but it still gives the site some visibility through the larger trees. That brings us to concerns of fire comments. Since the last meeting, we did have correspondence provided to us by the fire chief. Those concerns were related to what is the distance from the fire hydrants to the fire department connections, and that can't be more than 100 feet. This exhibit, well, it's not zoomed in enough to really be able to see, but there's leaders between the fire hydrants and the fire department connection for the sprinklers, and that is less than 100 feet. We've also added notes to the plan that in case those fire department connections to the sprinkler system change, we added the note to say it can't be more than 100 feet as the hose lays, just to make sure that if there is a change, it doesn't go out of compliance. Additional comments related to fire is making sure that the drop-off canopy has a clearance height of 13 feet 6 inches, and I believe as well as 13 feet for the bank canopy. We've added the appropriate notes to the plan to make sure that's clear. Fire truck access. So this is the turning movement of a fire truck accessing the site through phase one. As you can see, phase one builds a little longer of a stub than what would typically be necessary, but that stub is there to allow for the fire truck to make a turning maneuver. Then we move on to the fire truck turning movements through the site during completion, and it's able to circle the bank through the bypass lane. That lane is still 10 feet wide, and I know there was comments referred to as it needs to be 14 feet wide, and I think that was because of earlier testimony of when the fire truck has its legs out, it has a width of 14 feet, but this is, the 10 feet wide, it allows the truck to make its way around the site.
Real quick. How wide's a fire truck?
10 feet.
10-foot wide fire truck's gonna work around a 10-foot wide road?
I would imagine the vehicles would get out of the way when the fire truck has its lights on going around, as well as that canopy height is, it's meant to have a height so that way it can make its way underneath it as it's moving around.
What's the height on a fire truck? Engine,
Our
or
highest
ladder one?
is 11.9.
11.9?
And we have a
said
note on there
13
that's
feet?
13 feet.
Okay.
Also, so that width of the fire truck is I believe, as it's going around, those lines that are going over the edge of the pavement don't represent where the wheels are, it represents where like the front and back bumper are. So that's like the maximum width of it going around. Another comment was whether or not an ambulance can drop off at the drop-off area and be able to make essentially a U-turn out. This is the turning movement for an ambulance utilizing the drop-off area. The rest of my slides are all previous slides that were presented to you last time. In respect to the board's time, I can go through them if you have further questions, or I can leave it to Jason to address the traffic concerns.
Just have a question, Mr. Chair. So on your driving for the fire trucks here, what's the, obviously we got a 10-foot length, or 10-foot width, what is the length of the fire truck in the design you have?
I don't have it in front of me, but if I was able to zoom in on there, I don't know if you can see it on the screen. This,
It just says MLS Fire Custom on it. But I wouldn't have do you have an answer to that or not?
I don't have an answer right in front of you, but if we zoom in on that, if I can pull it up on my computer,
Oh,
I
yeah,
can probably
go
zoom
ahead.
in.
I think those curves are too narrow.
It would be on the bottom right there on that corner. To the right,
Okay.
And then go straight up. And zoom in on that curve.
I think we're about 30,
33,
I can't see the numbers in front of me there.
6.8, 20, 20.4, 6.5,
33 inch.
I would say it's 33.
33.
Brian, could I just have you come up to the mic real quick? Got a question for you. Could I just have you come up real quick?
You can use John's microphone or the stand-up one.
Do you know the width of, or excuse me, the length of what our longest truck would be?
I don't, I know it's 30-something feet. I'm not sure the exact length. I guess my question is, was that diagram taken from our information on the website, or was that a generic?
I know that's one that we have made up in our office. We can confirm it to be, we can change it to yours and make sure that your truck can move around.
One concern I do have is with the 10-foot width by the bank. Like I said, especially if they're gonna do granite curbs. Our tires are over $1,000 a piece. Trying to make a 10-foot truck go through a 10-foot driveway with granite curbs. I don't wanna be, every time we go through there, costing the town, $5,000 in tires. Where if we could just get a 12-foot width, that would be, plenty of room to get that piece of apparatus through there.
Well, there are no curbs now, but I'm sure we can make the 12-foot width work.
You'd be comfortable, Brian, if we had a 12-foot width on that, you'd be good?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will we make sure there's a 12-foot width on it?
Yes.
Great. And then I would just ask that we confirm with Brian that the model you used is sufficient to whatever our longest truck is.
I'll make sure of that.
Thank you. Anything, Brian? You good on
If
it?
it's 12 feet, it won't matter, unless the truck is 50 feet.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm talking length. Say the
Well,
truck is not
It'll still matter
33
on the
feet.
other
it's-
turning, all your turning
Yeah.
radiuses,
Or get a lot
especially up
bigger.
in, the corner closest to the intersection, at Rockingham Road. I mean, that's coming very close to those parking spaces. If you have a pickup truck or something in there that hangs out a little bit, like you said, that may be the front bumper or something on the truck. Well, we don't wanna be hitting a pickup truck with the front bumper. So, if it's 33 feet and our truck is
38, it's a
yeah,
big difference.
it's gonna make a big difference in turning that. It's not the easiest thing to move around, tight spaces aren't our friend, but we just wanna make sure it's something we can get in and out of easily without causing any damage.
I think it's appropriate to.
Yeah, so I would just ask that we double check and make sure that the modeling you're using matches whatever our largest truck is. And, with that, I'm sure Brian will be comfortable, and I wanna make sure that anything Brian has is answered.
Yeah, and if we do conditionally approve this, we want to make that a condition of
Correct.
approval.
If I may, Brian's most recent comments are part of the conditions that you have before you this evening, but we can certainly add a general satisfy the comments of the fire department.
Which ones are Brian's comments?
They're at the very end. of the
On
staff
this,
memo.
on the staff?
Yeah, I believe it just had to do with the turning radius, that 10-foot section, and then the height of the canopy on the medical office building.
And the hydrants.
Yeah.
So something, Brian, oh, there we go. Great, yeah, so it sounds like they've done everything, they've provided you with a study. I would just ask that we make sure the study's with the accurate size vehicle, and we should be good.
And the extra width road.
And the extra 2 feet on the
Yeah.
the
12
backside
foot
of the
width.
bank there. Yeah, yep.
You're saying only on the backside, not through the whole thing?
Correct,
thing
that
is
seems, that seems where my initial concern when we came through this and you guys came the first time was, there not being a road behind the building, because I was concerned about traffic with fire apparatus. You're demonstrating that you can make it through here. It seems to me that the only area that's, it's tight, but it seems to me that the only area that's a real concern on Brian's end is right here, so get the extra 2 feet for him extra 2 feet and make sure we have the right size truck on this study, I'm good.
Yeah, and just to double check that, Brian, width of the truck, the length of maybe the widest and longest one.
That's what we use, that's what we have published on the town's website, is our truck one, which is the tower truck out of the north end. That's the largest and longest piece that the town owns. And it's pretty much the largest piece that you can purchase. Derry and Nashua have the same size trucks, so that's why we always go by that, because depending who is going, we know the largest piece in this area can fit through.
Yeah.
So if that can fit ladder two, all the pumpers, they can fit no problem, because they're narrower and
Will all
short.
fit. Okay.
And the other tricky part that, and Brian will know it, and when you look at the template, is the overhang from the wheels themselves to the bumper.
That extra 4 or 5 feet
That's-
there, yeah.
Yeah, because if you're sitting over the wheel, right, you can turn that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I would say we also need to make sure that this drive-through, that this dimension is actual and not the footprint.
Mhm.
So, because when you build it out architecturally, it's gonna make it.
Yeah, the eaves and everything, yeah.
And soffit and whatever else, to make it architecturally pleasing to the eye, is gonna come out this way, right? X number of a foot and a half, 2 feet sometimes, depending on
Yeah,
what
so,
the tree looks like, so we gotta
the-
make sure that, of how, what the as-built is gonna be, basically.
Yeah,
Just to be clear, you're on a 33-foot truck, ours is 41 feet 5 inches, never mind including the buckets, gets you to 47, so there's a big difference there. Like I said,
Yeah.
if you can show it in a plan that's got the right right size model in it, I'm fine, but there's a big size difference between 33 and 41.
we'll provide that as a,
This is the town website, yeah.
Yeah, that information's directly from Pierce where we bought the piece of apparatus.
Yep.
Okay, we're talking on the, this is with the, make sure that our fire department is well satisfied with this plan. And if not, we'll continue.
All right?
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Don't leave just yet, just in case. Yeah, now we have semester 2 of traffic.
You ready for me?
Yes, I found it extremely interesting, so there is a science behind it, so it's.
Yes, yeah, it's not just me saying whatever, you know, I want to say. I got to back it up with something, right? Good evening, Jason Plord with VHB. As part of the previous development that you heard this evening that was conditionally approved, I had presented at a prior meeting that a potential Phase 2 development included this particular lot. And that was really to be able to provide information to New Hampshire DOT and to the town for a potential development. It wasn't proposed, so this development that you see in front of you is separate, even though it was evaluated somewhat in the previous traffic study. The reason why that's important is because that previous traffic study, the improvements that were developed for that other traffic study included the Phase 2 development. So no additional improvements would be necessarily required if there's a wash in traffic volumes. I just wanted to kind of like at least get that out there. Now, the previous development for the potential development for Phase 2 that was evaluated was for a 16,500 square foot retail plaza and a 3,300 square foot restaurant with a fast food restaurant with a drive-through. That's not what we're proposing here. What we're proposing here is for 12,150 square foot medical office space and the bank, the 3,000 square foot bank with drive-in. Not a drive-through, because banks in the traffic engineering world are considered drive-in instead of drive-through. So what we did was we prepared a memorandum in accordance with the short traffic analysis within the site plan regulations. A lot of the information is duplicated from the traffic study that we prepared for, let's just call it the Vista Ridge Residential, just to keep them separate, at least it helps me keep them separate in my mind. And so what we had done was we had prepared that memorandum and a lot of the information, like for the roadway descriptions, the intersection descriptions that are required, are, you know, I pretty much took a lot of that information, just put it into a different format. For the trip generation, we used the Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation information to be able to estimate site trips for the medical office and for the bank. One important thing that I want to make sure of is that Sam and Meridian had put together a November 16th, 2023 letter that shows some trip generation information that Hoyle Tanner, town's review consultant, had taken a look at and commented on. This document that we've submitted replaces that. So it addresses all of Hoyle Tanner's comments. Hoyle Tanner's not reviewed it. I don't want to speak out of turn. We just submitted that information today. So I don't even think that town staff has had a chance to even maybe open it or review it. So I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't want to say that everything is signed off because people probably haven't even reviewed it yet. But we used the trip generation information. And then what we also did was we compared the site trips that were for the potential development on this lot that was part of the Vista Ridge residential development versus what is proposed here. And what we're showing is that there are different types of trip characteristics. And I kind of touched upon that a little bit at the last hearing, where residential developments, they're all new trips to the area and coming in and going out. The same with office. Retail is a little different because you're capturing cars that are already out there, whether they're going to be turning right in and right out or left in and left out. In this situation, the proposed medical office is going to be all new trips to the area. The bank is going to be a combination of new trips and pass-by trips. So based on a comparison of new trips, so since pass-by trips aren't adding any traffic to the area, it's really, what does this look like as compared to what was previously evaluated? And in the weekday morning peak hour, this development is going to generate less traffic, less new trips than the previously evaluated potential development on this site. For the Saturday midday, that's the same thing. It's a reduction. On the weekday evening, it's a little different. There's going to be 4 less trips, but 31 additional exiting new trips from this development. Now, in the traffic engineering world, and that's based on ITE, Institute of Transportation Engineers, and New Hampshire DOT guidelines, say that if you are going to generate 100 vehicles per hour through an intersection, you may have an impact. What does that mean? That means that you're going to increase delay, you're going to increase queuing, you might need to do some improvements, shovel in the ground improvements, changing the traffic control from a signal or from stop signs to signal or roundabout or whatever that might be. But you may have an impact if you're going to generate 100 vehicles per hour through an intersection. So based on the delta between the two developments, the potential development as part of Vista Ridge residential for this lot and the proposed development that you see in front of you, that less 4 entering and the additional 31 exiting is 27, right? So -4 plus 31 is 27. So the increase from what was previously evaluated is only during the weekday evening, and that's 27 additional vehicle trips.
Just to clarify, if I'm following
Sure.
along with you.
Yep.
You're adding 27 trips, however, was it ITE?
Yes.
Says 100 trips may have the potential to cause
A problem.
a problem.
Yeah.
So you're at 27 out of 100.
Exactly.
100 may cause a problem.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Correct. So pretty much what I'm saying is that it should be negligible. Now, another thing that I had not done in this memo that's been submitted today to the town is that previous potential development also included the interaction of vehicles between the residential uses and the proposed commercial uses. I didn't take that into consideration here. So actually that 27 increase during the weekday evening could be less if I did take that into consideration. I figured it's a totally separate development, so I didn't want to be too bold and brash and take advantage of that. So, I just wanted to make sure that everything was up front on these 2 methodologies. And so, I think that the important thing too is that similar to the Vista Ridge residential development, similar to the Rhino warehouse development off of Jack Bridge Road, those developments, all 3 developments, are not having driveways directly on the state highway system, unlike the 2V development on the northwest quadrant. So what that means is that the town would have to be the applicant to New Hampshire DOT for the increase of traffic from the public roadway system, the local roadway system, onto the state highway system. So it's kind of like, just almost like record keeping, so that the state is aware of what's going on, that's going to be reviewed and potentially approved by the planning board or a zoning board or any other kind of municipal board, to make sure that they are in the loop as far as the traffic volume increases and any potential additional improvements that may be required on the state highway system. So very similar to those other 2 developments, that these traffic volumes are going to have to be provided by the town to the state for the record-keeping process. And that would be part of a driveway permit application. Even though we're not having a driveway on the state highway system, it's really more of for the traffic volume increases. So I just wanted to make sure that, I was getting everything out there as far as the similarities to the different developments in the area, but also saying that at the end of the day, the traffic volume increases associated with this development are gonna be pretty similar to what was previously evaluated within the Vista Ridge residential traffic study.
Shorter.
A lot shorter, right?
So, just to understand and to clarify, the traffic study that you did actually has a bigger impact than what you are going to develop.
During the weekday morning and the
Correct,
Saturday
with the
midday.
exception of the one weekday evening where there's 27 more trips,
Correct.
and it is 100 trips that triggers there could be a potential traffic problem is 100 trips and you're at 27.
That is correct.
Okay, and outside of the weeknight, everything else is lower than what your traffic study had.
That is correct. And that there could be even, that 27 could even be lower.
Because
if
you didn't factor in,
The interaction with the residential, the proposed residential.
yeah, okay.
That's correct.
So the town's gonna have to see what the increase is, and that information goes to the state.
That is correct.
Impacts on the state highways.
That is correct.
And then it'll be up at the state to deal with that, if they need to do anything.
That is correct. And so we did not do any intersection analyses like we did in the previous traffic study. But in this memo that we did submit today, it does show a site-generated traffic volume networks for the weekday morning, the weekday evening, and Saturday midday to show what those additions to two major intersections are. That is at 28 Sims Drive and Vista Ridge Drive, and down at the other end, Vista Ridge at Perkins, just to show what those increases would be just for this development. And, oh, one other thing is that as part of the Vista Ridge residential development, the Phase 2 project also included office space down at Vista Ridge and Perkins. That's gonna be a totally separate project if that ever comes forward. So if you wanna look at Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, Phase 1 would be the residential, Phase 2 is this development, and Phase 3 would be whatever is developed on that parcel. That is not part of this project, and that was not part of the previous project.
Thank you.
If we need help on any future projects, we'll come calling.
Absolutely.
Any questions on traffic from the board? Any other details? Anything to add, staff?
Again, just going back through my comments, my notes from December 13th meeting. Again, we have not didn't receive revised plans before this evening's meeting to take a look at it. Again, some of my comments was, again, fire access to the site, the emergency access. These are notes from last time, last meeting. The other thing we need to be cognizant of on that turning, the fire truck coming around is the queue lengths for the drive-through, Brian. Again, because that's where the drive-through is to the rear of the building. So we'll have to be cognizant of that as well. The only other thing, and again, as Jason indicated, that report was provided this afternoon, haven't looked at it. Again, the new trips, have not looked at the queue lengths on Vista Ridge, though, have you?
No, but what I had done though, John, was that I wanted to make sure about the queue links that were within that traffic study for the Vista Ridge residential.
Yeah.
So under the full build-out, the 2023 full build-out conditions, those queue lengths, so from the stop bar on Vista Ridge at 28, coming back, right? Because, I mean, that's a big concern. We want to make sure that's not going to be blocking the driveway.
Exactly.
So I'll give you the worst-case scenario, the 95th percentile queues,
Yep.
because the average queues are one thing, but we want to make sure that we're accommodating for even the 95th percentile. So in the weekday morning, this was under the 2023 full build, so that was the Phase 1 and Phase 2.
Yeah.
Weekday morning, 133 feet, weekday evening, 72 feet, and the Saturday midday, 120 feet. And based on the distance between the stop bar and the driveway, that's 245 feet.
Yeah.
So even under the 95th percentile queues, it would not reach the driveway where it's proposed to be located.
Yeah. Because again, we don't have much of a sliver there.
Correct.
Not much of a turn lane, so there still may be a need to widen that out.
And you're saying for the northbound approach for the right turn lane?
Correct.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm looking over your shoulder. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yep, exactly, yeah. Yeah, so, right, so that was actually the worst condition. So what I did was since the right turn movements can turn, number one, right on red, and they have an overlap to be able to run when the main line left turns are going.
Yep.
That the longest queues are in the shared left through lane.
Gotcha.
And so those numbers that I gave you are the longest queues.
Yep.
That would be, and again, that included the potential development that was already previously evaluated here.
Yep.
Which is gonna be less in the morning and less on a Saturday. It could be a little bit more during the weekday evening. But again, out of the three time periods, the shortest queue was during the weekday evening, which was 72 feet. So we still have a lot of
should
wiggle
be,
room until we
yeah.
get to 245. where
And
the
even,
driveway
and
will
even
be.
though that 100 is, kind of the rule of thumb.
Yeah.
You always have to take a look at what's happening. Again, DOT might say they don't
Yep.
care because it's our roads. It's gonna be your problem.
Yeah, and that's right. So
Yeah.
to support what John is saying is that the state can come back and say, hey, town, you approved this project, and you're approving all these other developments in the area, and you're adding all traffic to our state highway system, what are you gonna do for improvements? They have every right to do that. So that's why John has been, going through the same process for each developer in the area to make sure that we're following the same process. And the reason why I bring up the Rhino Warehouse and the Vista Ridge Residential is because I worked on both of those studies. And so we are following the same exact process that John has required. It doesn't matter who the applicant is, doesn't matter who the engineer is. That's the same exact process that we're going through, that we need to make sure that we're providing all the information to the town so that the town can then provide that to the state. And if the state has any questions, they're gonna go back to John and say, what are you doing? And John needs to be able to have that within any kind of a conditional approval that says that the state needs to sign off on it.
Yep.
If not, then you have the ability to come back to us and say, hey, we need X, Y, or Z.
So it's a standard, it's nothing that I dreamt up.
Yep.
Trust
Right.
me.
Yeah, John didn't make that up.
Didn't think you did.
Okay, staff have anything?
Just as a reminder, the board granted a waiver regarding the bank renderings. So what that means is that the applicant has to come back to Heritage and the board at the time that they are ready to present those renderings.
Yes,
Outside of that, I'm all set.
okay. And you're all set for right now, John?
I'm sorry?
You're all set for, okay. Go through the board and then the public. So I'll start with Roger.
Everything looks pretty good to me. I'm just still nervous about those turning radiuses, and that's it.
Yeah, well, Brian's keeping a watchful eye on that, so. Jason?
The only question I had was on the width of the lanes, but
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll stay on top of it, so I'm not worried.
I'm all set, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Jason? Jake?
Bear with me for 1 sec here, Mr. Chair.
That's
I'm
all
trying to
right.
zoom out in my photos here. So just to echo my comments before, it's really just on the fire department side to make sure that there's another study given that shows the appropriate size piece of apparatus, that we do extend out from 10 feet to 12 feet over where the bank is. And I'd like to see, I think it would help out a little bit. There's 1, 2, 3 islands right on that, what would you call that, kind of northeast corner of the building. There's an island next to the handicap spot, one directly to its right, and one underneath it next to the bank handicap spot. I'd like to see if we could change those from an actual raised island to something that's flat. That way, if the fire department does need to make a turn there, they're going over something that's like a rumble strip or cobbles, something like that.
Or like pavers or something like that?
Yeah, as opposed to an actual raised structure, that's gonna give them a little bit more of an ability to do so. Those are really the three things I wanna stress on here. I think you've done a great job with the traffic, I understand it. To me, it sounds like this proposed development, for the most part, has less traffic than what your original study was. The actual proposed development is less traffic, with the exception of a weeknight. And that weeknight exception that does have more traffic is still well below the amount that would trigger a potential traffic issue.
Can you say those islands again?
So, these three right here, 1, 2, 3, if we could take those, you know, and I've seen it a lot of the time where they take, you know, it's almost like they pave it and it's just.
Yeah, I understand. Essentially a rollover curb where it
Correct.
allows the vehicle
Correct,
to
so
come
it
over.
would not be an island per se, it would be an asphalt thing that has the ability to go over, but it's marked that people can't park on it, that type of thing.
Okay.
And I think, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, I don't know if there's a standard for this. I know what it is, it's raised, but if this could be shortened up a little bit, that might help this radius.
Yeah.
Again, especially because, you know, if you got a double
Guy with a plow truck
double
sitting there,
cab with a
yeah.
plow on the front of it sticking out here, this is gonna be in the way, so if this was a little bit shorter.
We'll look into making pinch points to have the appropriate rollover
I think
curbs.
I think you're gonna find you might have to do it anyway with the additional size of the truck that you didn't know about. I think it might become obvious at the time.
And my last comment to that is I believe in the landscape plan, there are trees in all those islands. I wouldn't wanna see those trees gone, I'd wanna see them relocated somewhere on the property.
We could also shift the trees to once a little further away from where they would roll over.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, just move them back, you know,
Yeah,
a little bit.
outside of that, I'm good, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Lynn,
No, nothing for me.
Jeff,
nope.
Ian,
My only concern was the length of a dual cab long bed truck going through there. And as long as John okays it, because I just want to say I've seen it in other medical facilities, the back of the truck's 2 feet out into the drive lane. So that's what I was worried about. If John is fine with that, I'm fine with it.
I'm sorry, though, Ann, our parking space is 9 by 20.
I know, but if a 22-foot truck, or if they're not up tight to the curb in the front, then their back end's out there. And I've seen that in other parking lots, put it that way.
I
So-
have two, Ann, but again, so are you saying to provide some larger parking spaces,
I mean,
longer?
yeah.
That would be the only way to
right, I know.
accommodate that.
The 9 by 20 is the standard requirement for a parking space.
Right, so, but trucks are longer nowadays.
Yep.
So what do we
There's no
do?
call for stupidity.
Yeah,
I would say I have one of those trucks and I typically back in, so that way my tail end is hanging over the curb. But I recognize that people do what they want sometimes.
right, but one of the good things about this is there's no car, truck to truck parking front to front. So it'll only be one truck there and not a car that's exceeded their, or a truck that's exceeded their depth into the parking
Yeah.
space. So,
Yeah, there's no stack parking, so it's all single row, so the trucks do have the ability to overhang the curb if needed.
yeah, okay, then that's fine, I have no other questions.
Okay, all set. Are there any abutters to this plan, or anyone from the public have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding this site plan? I do not see any, and we'll bring it back to the board to make decisions that it wants to make.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to grant the conditional approval of the site plan and conditional, we already did the conditional use permit. I'd like to make a motion, excuse me, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to grant conditional approval of a 12,000 square foot medical building and a 3,000 square foot bank and associated site improvements. Map 15, lot 60-2, zoned MUC, Gene Gagnon owner and Bill Griner applicant, in accordance with plans prepared by Meridian Land Services dated July 13th, 2023. Last revised November 16th, 2023, and to add in the conditions that I had discussed, which are in a study that satisfies the fire department with the appropriate size truck, adjusting those few islands, And if any trees need to be moved, they're not removed, they're relocated.
And a 12-foot
And,
buffer.
yes, correct,
around the
I knew I'd forget one. And going from 10 feet to 12 feet on the backside of the bank, please. Thank you, Kelly.
Okay.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I have a motion by Jake, conditionally approved with some additional conditions, second by Lynn. Any further discussion by the board? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Abstentions, and chair votes affirmative. You have a conditionally approved site plan, and I know you'll work with staff, so.
We appreciate the board's time on this. Thank you.
You're
A really good looking building, guys.
Yeah,
Very
I
good looking
think this will
building.
be a
Thank you for the samples.
added improvement for our community and also service, so that's a busy area down there, so.
So I'm not planning on seeing you at the next hearing, so sorry about that.
And we'll make sure we will bring you in for some reason, you know, for further.
We can send it back.
You can come in anyway if you have
You
nothing else
gotta
going
give
on.
us the quiz.
I mean, it's kind of a fun group, you have to admit.
It is, I like you guys. We're lively, that's for sure.
Does the board have any other business?
Take your samples, guys.
When do we have a adjusted, rules of procedure? Is that gonna be at our next meeting?
Goal is next meeting.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, that's one thing I had, Jake. Also, Sylvia from Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission is going to be here on the 14th of February to review the housing needs assessment that was done by the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, and actually all the planning commissions in the entire state. So the state-run thing is some interesting numbers there. I think this town has been doing quite well in providing housing compared to other towns in the planning region.
Can't think of a better way to spend Valentine's Day.
And I think sometime in the future, we'll have John in to go through the sewer plan. What's the, long-term plans for sewer in town.
Facility plan?
Yes, facility plan. Searching for the name for it. Thank you. And then we have election of officers, which is scheduled for March 6, 2024. So we can start our campaigning. And I don't have anything else, so I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion to adjourn by Jake, second by Lynn. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. And then on that last motion, note on the minutes that Jenny Varani had stepped down.